Carolina Governor Roy Cooper and Governor-elect Josh Stein have filed a lawsuit against Republican legislative leaders.
That's right. This comes after Republican lawmakers vetoed an override of the controversial Hurricane Helene relief bill earlier this week. And we have WBTV's Mary Calkins live in the newsroom this morning walking us through this. Mary, what can you tell us about what you've learned?
Yeah, well, Caroline and Naya, this bill is intended to provide relief to those living in western North Carolina following Hurricane Helene. Now, critics of the bill say it doesn't provide enough relief and it also strips state offices of certain powers. Now, in November, we reported that North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper vetoed the hurricane relief bill, which he calls a sham. He argued the bill does not send enough money to western North Carolina, but, quote, shuffles money from one fund to another in Raleigh. And he says it strips power from certain statewide offices, including the Democratic governor-elect. Now, Republican lawmakers have a supermajority. That means they have enough votes to override the governor's veto. And that's exactly what happened on Wednesday. Then in response, news came out of Raleigh yesterday that Governor Cooper and Governor-elect Stein have filed a lawsuit. Now, in a statement, Cooper said, quote, it's fundamental to our Constitution that the legislature cannot both make the laws and then choose the leaders who enforce them. Adding, quote, breaking the executive branch chain of command in law enforcement or any other executive branch agency is unconstitutional, and it weakens our ability to respond to emergencies and keep the public safe. Now, as of this morning, no comment from Republican leaders, but of course, we will continue following this story. For now, reporting live in the newsroom, Mary Calkins, WBTV, on your side.